I'm going to move that window here. Excellent. So I'm database engineer for 9 days. Then I'm going to start a new role. I'm also a Microsoft certified trainer and Microsoft Data Platform since last year. If you have any questions or want to get in touch about something, my email is mikebronowski@gmail.com. I'm on Twitter and on LinkedIn, and my handle on both services is Mikey Bronowski, no space. I have a blog at bronowski.it if you want to read some of my previous content as well. So let's start with the agenda for today. It's quite simple. I'm going to go through 3 things, basically. What are the Elastic jobs in Azure, how we can configure them, and there I will show you 2 methods. One is the Azure Portal, and one is the Powershell, which I prefer personally. And the last bit is why someone would like to use the Azure Elastic jobs in their environments. So let's go to the main thing. What are the Elastic jobs? And that's the simplest explanation would be there are SQL agent in Azure. So Azure SQL Database does not have SQL agent, the one that we know from on-premises SQL Server. And if you want to do some automated task, there is no such thing as on-premises. So for Azure SQL Database, that you have to use Elastic jobs in this matter. And the service itself, it's still in preview, and it's like that for past maybe 4 years, as at least the first time I read about them was 2018, so it's almost 4 years. And it's not only running the jobs, the T-SQL jobs. It has few more features than the SQL agent on premises. You can compare that to master and target servers in SQL Server. If you're not familiar with the MSX and TSX, that's the feature of SQL Server where you can have one server and define the jobs on one server, which is called master server, and add the target servers to that definition, and the jobs will be created on target servers, and they will be executed on the target servers, so you won't have to configure them on target servers. So that's, in short, what is the Elastic jobs. And there are 4 main components of Elastic jobs. That is the agent itself. So it's a service in Azure. We need to create that in Azure. For the agent to be properly working, we need to tie it to the job database. And the job database is a MSDB thing in cloud. So it will have all the system tables, system procedures. So when you look into the content of the database, it will look similar to MSDB on SQL Server on premises. 2 other components are target groups. Target group is a concept that I don't think it is used in SQL Server on premises. We can use CMS for on premises to have a group of servers when we have master server to push the job to targets. But in Elastic jobs, it's a bit different. The target can be a server with all the databases. It can be a single database, pools or shard maps. And we have 2 options. We can include the targets, or we can also exclude the targets. So when we have a list of databases on the server, we can add the whole server and then exclude specific databases from the target group, which is not possible in on-premises SQL Server. And the last bit is the job. That's the task that will be executing the T-SQL against target groups. And the best would be if the job can be rerun. So the logic has to allow the job to rerun without any failures. So that's these are the components. And this slide, you don't have to read that through. I'm going to share that slide. It's a plan, what you need to do to create fully functional Elastic job and the targets and the job database. So we were talking about targets, we were talking about the agent, we have the target groups, Elastic jobs, but we also need set of credentials. And the credentials will be, I'm using the example of two credentials. One is the refresh credential, which is a credential set up on the target server level that allows the agent to see all the databases. So if one of our targets is the whole Azure SQL Server, the refresh credential allows you to see the databases. And when you create a new database, this credential will allow the agent to see the new database, which is good because you don't have to specifically add this database to the job, to the target group. The other credential is job execution. That credential is responsible for running the job against the database, and every database that requires the job to be executed on will have this credential. So that's just an example of two credentials, but you can do any configuration. But the principle is to have least required permissions. So the credentials don't have too much power to do too much damage. But I will show you the plan, so you don't have to read this slide. You don't have to memorize that. And we will go through that. Especially it's more clear in the PowerShell demo. But you have to do this either way. So let's see first how we can create Elastic jobs in Azure Portal. Let's switch to the portal now. So that's Portal here. And I have a backup resource group that I created before that session, just in case Azure is too slow. And I will show you how to create that, but just in case it's slow, it's been created before. So where you can find the Elastic Job Agent. I have this in my quick access here, but it's called Elastic Job Agents. And if you want to create one, you can do that by creating it here. But the problem with this approach is you have to have your underlying database and server ready, because if I do the Power Platform agent here, I have to select the database. And if I don't have my database, the backup doesn't exist for me. These two are not available. So I cannot create new server from this wizard. So I have to go back, create my job database first and my target database first, and then create the agent. So let's create the SQL database. And the concept I'm talking about is a bit different here, because when you are creating the SQL database, you have the option to create the server as well. So when you're creating the agent, there is no option to create new database. You have to go back and create the database first. It cannot be done within the same process. So let's create the new resource group, which is BB Portal, too many BB, and YPP, PP, Power Platform. And I'm going to create PP Portal job database. That database will be used to store the system processes. And I'm going to create the server. So it is pp job server. My location doesn't matter at this point. I'm just going to use East US. Hopefully it's not too slow. You need to provide the credentials to connect to your environment. Perfect. And that will be the new server. And now we need to configure the power, the performance bit here. So the minimum for job database is S0, standard 0. That's the minimum for the job database. The targets can be basic. When I'm going to create the targets, you'll see there is a basic option, but the agent has to be on S0. That's the lowest required. The next bit is the security, the networking. So I need to have a public endpoint to be able to connect to this solution, and two firewall rules. First is the Azure resources need to talk to each other. I will be creating different Azure resources, targets, and job servers, databases. And the other one is my IP address to be able to connect with Management Studio to that solution. Because that's unfortunate, but I cannot finish the whole configuration within Portal. I need to do some stuff in T-SQL, and I will be using Management Studio for that. In this bit, I'm just going to leave the default here, tags as well, create. So my total cost will be around 13 euro for this agent job. Let's create that. And while it's being created, I'm going to create another SQL database, which will be my target. So I'm going to, yes, it's being created. Perfect. So now I'm going to create the target database. And it will be on different servers. So I'm going to use this pp portal resource group, pp target database, and I will be using new servers. I will create a new server, pp target server. And the other steps are very similar. So first, credentials, my admin account. Okay, it doesn't match. Fingers. Okay, that's being created, and now I can pick the configuration. So because I'm cheap, I don't want to spend 200 euros per month on my target. I'm going to pick the not here the basic one, the cheapest option. So it will be 4 euro. So it's about 3 times less than the agent job. And that's good. Now I need to allow myself to connect to the server. So very similar to what I did for the job database. Next, create 4 euro. Perfect. Create. And while it's being created, we should see one of them might be already created. So let's go to the portal. Job server is there. They are still in progress. So yeah, I need to wait a little bit, but I can switch to the backup one just to show you how the agent looks like. So my agent where's my agent? It's here. It's like that. And I had some jobs created. I will create the jobs, but the job is here. But the problem with that is that I cannot open that job. I cannot see the definition. I cannot create new job here. I cannot add credentials. I cannot add target groups. I can see them, the name. I cannot see what's in them. So that's a bit limited using the portal, which is a little bit frustrating if you want to do everything in portal. It's not possible here. So let's go see if my job database is ready. And it's done. So let's connect in Management Studio. I'm just going to show you what we have there. Aha. That's the wrong server. Portal job server portal. That's the wrong server I created, or I created the database on the wrong server. Oh. Portal job. Here's the one. Apologies for that. Now. Password. Yes. Success. So I have created the database here, the Power Platform portal job, and I'm just going to show you that's empty. Before I create the agent, it doesn't have any tables or any procedures, any other objects. It's just an empty Azure SQL database, as you can see. And just a few steps back, when I mentioned the MSX TSX, that's my local instance. It's actually on Docker, but when you right-click on the agent here, you can see multi-server administration, and that's where you create master and target servers. I'm not going to do this now, but you can test it out on your local machines if you haven't heard about master and target servers before. I don't need this instance anymore, so let's close it. And let's see if my other resource is created. Excellent. So now I have all my resources ready, all my two databases, my job database and target database. And I'm going to create the agent now. So I can go back to the quick access Elastic Job agent and create the agent, which will be called PP agent, no-pp agent. And so I'm going to select the database. So I have two servers here, job server and target server. On the target server, I use the basic level. It doesn't show me the database. It's there, it's created, but it's not, it doesn't meet the requirements for the agent job. So I need to go to this server, and I have the database. As you can see, it's S0 standard. So I can pick that database, click OK, review and create. That's all I need to do in this window. I can download the template for automation if I want to, but it's just it, and it will create the agent for me. So I'm going to. It will take about a minute or so. So I'm going to grab the name of the target database because I need to create the credentials, and we will be switching to the Management Studio. So let's connect to this. That's also an empty table, empty database, no objects. And in this demo, I'm going to create a job that will create a table in this database. So the job will be on the job server, and it will create a table here on the table on this PP target database. Okay, so my agent, I think it's in progress. So I need to wait a second before I carry on with all these procedures because they might not be there. But let's see, refresh some tables because it's in progress. So it might show up at least partially. That's there. So let's wait. Yeah, we have the internal tables. We will have the stored procedures as well, and they, when you look closely, they look very similar to what you can see in MSDB on SQL on premises, which that's why I called the job database MSDB for cloud. And yes, I can see them now. So I will be using the stored procedures once it's all done. Let's see if the agent is created. Yes, the agent is created. It's empty. It's just the agent. It has no credentials. So it's here. No jobs, no credentials, no target groups. That's the view for jobs. That was the view of the executions, latest 100 executions. And that might be the reason that we have the limited view. I don't want this page. That it's still in preview. It might change in the future. Who knows? That would be useful if we could manage the jobs from the portal. But for now, we can't. So I have T-SQL script that I need to connect first to the job server here. I'm going to connect to the job server. And this one, I'm going to connect to the target server. And that's exactly the same T-SQL script. That's just one T-SQL script. And I have notes what to run on which server. So this bit will be run on job server. This will be run on target server, and again on job server. So instead of having two scripts and trying to figure out what to do where, I have this in one script, and it may explain you the idea of the credentials and the users. So first I need to create on the job server, I need to create the master key encryption, master key, and it will be done in job database. In Azure SQL Database, you cannot do this use, and my database was PP Portal job. PP Portal job. Okay, you cannot use this, and you should click the proper button. The use statement is not supported in cloud in this solution, so you have to pick that from the drop-down list. So I'm going to create the master key in the job database. That's done. And I have two database scoped credentials. One is the job credential. This is the one that's responsible for running the job against databases, against the targets. And the refresh credential is on the target server level to be to enable the agent to see the databases on the target servers. But I created the credentials on the job database. That's done. And now I have to switch to the target server. The target server, I'm on the target server. So the logins go to the master database. So both logins for refresh credential and job credential will go to the master database. But the user for refresh credential go to the master as well, because that's where we are on top of the other databases. So I'm going to run this on master database on target server. That's done. And now I need to switch to the target database to create the user for job credential because I want the job agent to run jobs against this target database. So I'm going to create the user here. And that's an extra permission because I want this job to create some tables. So I'm adding just TDL admin role to that credential so it can actually do something. Perfect. So now that's the target. Go back to the job. On the job server, on the job database, I can create the target group now because that's the other component of the whole solution. So we're going to add the target group, just as proc sp add target group. And here is the fun part where we are going to add the targets. And because my target has different name, so I'm going to use this name. I'm going to use sp add target group member stored procedure, and it has the target group name, the one I just created, the membership type, which is include because I want to include that server, and the other type is exclude. The target type is SQL Server, and in the other demo you will see that I also have the SQL Database target type, and the refresh credential because I'm adding the whole server, the whole instance, and it requires the refresh credential to see the new or any changes in databases. If we add new database or remove, it will see that change, and that's the server name. So I'm just adding that member, which is the one server. We can see and confirm what's been created, what's been added from these two views, target groups and target group members. So just very simple, the confirmation what I just added. You can also add the elastic pool and shard maps. And the next step, the last step of the solution is to add job. So I'm going to add the job just as we do on premises. Create a job. And here is the good part. We are going to add steps. So I have a job name because I need to link it to the job. I have a step name, and I have a command, the tsql command, and two things. Credential name is the credential that will execute the job. So I need this credential to be present in the target database, and the target group name. So as you can see on the step level, I can define the target group, which in the second demo, you will see the real difference when I'm adding each step to different target group. So let's add this step. And I'm still working on the job server. See, it's all on the first job server. It's not on the target. Similar to the previous, to the target groups, we can see confirmation of what jobs is created, what is the job step, credential, target group, all these different things. And now I can execute the job. I cannot do this from Portal. Just right click and start. There is no thing like agent here in Management Studio. So I'm running this from the stored procedure on the job server. And it will run, depends on how busy Azure is, how big is my job, what it's doing. So let's see the view from jobs .job executions, and we can see few rows for just one. So there is one job, one step, but it has a few rows already. So I'm going to see, yeah, it succeeded. So the last message is step succeeded, execution on target, job execution succeeded. So you can see different things here about the job. It's not only job succeeded or step succeeded like on SQL Server on premises. It's a bit more detailed because we also have target groups. So my job was about to create a table on target database. So if I refresh that now, I should see the table, and the table is here, and the table is called table because I'm very creative in this field. So that concludes this part. But as you can see, you have to use two separate tools: the portal, Azure Portal, and Management Studio. And if we go quickly to the agent here, it's actually refreshed. We can see that the job completed, and the job is here as well. And the target groups are here, but as I told you before, we cannot do anything with them. We cannot see them. So that's a bit painful. So yeah, that's how we create them in Azure Portal and using T-SQL from the separate tool. Now, before the second demo, before the Powershell demo, let's consider why someone should create elastic jobs in their environment. So the most important reason probably is to duplicate the activities, the actions that they have in on-premises SQL Server, because in Azure SQL Database there is no SQL agent. So if you want to replicate the same thing, you would use elastic jobs. You can then automate management tasks, whatever you have. And the other reason would be to collect data in central place. So elastic jobs can read data from targets and feed that back to the central place, to the job database. And I will show you that in the second demo as well. So let's create some elastic jobs with PowerShell now. And that's my preferred way, because we can run the whole script. It will run, depends on Azure performance, it will run 10, 20 minutes, but it will create the whole solution. It will run the jobs and so on. But that would be very boring for you if I just run the script now. So excuse me. Yeah. The plan is the same. I'm still going to create the targets and jobs and databases and credentials and so on. But it will be done in PowerShell. For that to succeed, I'm using two PowerShell modules. One is AZ.SQL, the Azure module for managing SQL services. I think the latest version is 3.7.1 from this month. Maybe it's like 2 weeks old. And I'm also using the DBA Tools module. And if you are not familiar with DBA Tools, it's a community maintained PowerShell module to manage SQL Server. And you can see different functions here. I think it's over 600 functions, commands, PowerShell commands now. And there's a huge list of contributors. And I think recently they even finished the book here. So if you're not familiar with DBA Tools, just go to dbatools.io. And someone called them SQL Server Management Studio in command line. So you can do whatever SQL Server Management Studio can, but using command line PowerShell without clicking your mouse at all. That's very cool, very efficient, and I like it very much. So I'm going to use that PowerShell module in this demo. So let's see if I have my PowerShell modules. Yep, I have almost the latest version. I think DBA Tools is updated so often that it could be already 2 versions old, and I've updated that 2 days ago. But this means they will fix the bugs and add new features very often, so it's good to have them up to date. Okay, so I need my credential, the password that I was providing in Portal. So my very secret password. Add my password. Then I need to connect to my Azure account in order to use my Azure resources. I already did this, so I'm not going to run this command, but if you are running this for the first time, you will get a pop-up window to put your Azure credentials. So yeah, you need to have your Azure account ready to be able to do that. So I'm going to create a new resource group. That's one step that will be very quick. It should be very quick. And the method here, what I'm using is PowerShell splitting. So instead of providing all these parameters in line here, and this line would be very long, or I would have to break it into pieces, I can define my parameters before that and use that resource group args with $ here with the @ symbol. So it's very good to present the parameters and very clear to read. So I'm going to use that a lot. And I'm also intercepting whatever action I've taken as a variable or catch it as an object, so I can refer to that object instead of hard coding the names. So for instance, I created the resource group here. It will have all the details. So if I run this now, it have all the details about the resource group I just created. And then I can refer to that resource using the resource group name. So I don't have to repeat my name in the script. So that's how the whole script works here. If I make a mistake somewhere in the middle, then I'm in trouble. But let's hope it doesn't happen. So the resource group is created now, and I need to create servers. For this demo, I have 1 job server and 2 target servers. And based on my previous history with Azure, it might take between 3 and 15 minutes. Who knows? That's Azure and the power of cloud. So we'll see. So I'm going to kick this off and explain a few things that I'm going to do later while this is running. Hopefully it's 33 on my clock, so hopefully it doesn't run too long. The next step would be very similar to the portal. I'm going to create the firewall rules, and one of the firewall rules was to allow my IP address to connect to the resources. So to do so, I'm going to catch my IP address from this website. I linked the blog post here. There are different methods to intercept the IP address. I just used that one. It felt the simplest for me. And again, in the parameters, here's my rule name, the IP address is my IP address, and the resource group name. And I'm going to create the firewall rule with the Azure SQL Server firewall rule. There's a good chance I won't be reading the commands in Azure SQL module, because sometimes they are very long and it feels like it's a whole sentence to read. So the script will be published. I will put that on my GitHub for anyone who is interested to play with the script. I will just give you an idea what I'm doing in here. So I will create that rule on my 3 servers, and the other rule is to allow Azure IPs to talk to each other. So 2 rules, those 2 I checked in the portal when I was creating the servers. Once the servers are done, I will create the database, the job database. As you can see here, I'm using the SO level because that's the job database requirement. It should take about a minute to create one. And then I will create the Elastic Job Agent. Again, it will be about 1 minute. And you don't see many parameters here. It's just the command name of the agent. But I'm passing here the job database details because the job database will be created here. So this object has all the details about resource group, the server name, the database name, and everything is there. So it will be passed to this command. So I don't have to provide the whole line of parameters again. I'm just passing this, piping this, that's how it's called in PowerShell, to the command. So it's more clean to read and to understand what is happening. That will be done after the job database is created, and then after the agent is created, I will create 2 sets of databases. On one server, I will create a single database, and on the second server, I will create 4 databases, just to play with the target groups. And it's 4 minutes, so it's a bit somewhere in between now. So hopefully it won't take too long. I can see the portal, how we are doing with the databases. So that's why I have the backup. I had bad experience once and had to create the backup. The job server is, well, I think it's ready. But we are still waiting for the 2 other servers so I can run another script in PowerShell. So it might take a few more minutes. Do we have any questions at this point? I don't know. Where's the chat? No. If we don't have any questions, I can show you what I'm going to do in this backup resource group. That's why I created that one. So the backup resource group has all the objects. So I'll have the.
Michael, actually, we are broadcasting this on Facebook Live, and actually, we are broadcasting this event to the Facebook Live, and few people are invited here. So still now, I don't see any question in the chat box. So,
okay, that's fine. That's fine. If anyone has any questions, I will share my email again after that. So hopefully I can help answering them.
yeah,
that's
that
fine.
will be better.
So yeah, so here we are going to create the server, the job server, the target servers, 1, 2, the databases, and the agent. And I'm just going to wait a little bit more for Azure to create the resources needed for that. Okay, so let's maybe keep talking about the plan, what we are going to do next. This bit might be interesting. I will still have time when I'm going to create the databases, but this is the bit where I am not using the Azure SQL module. I will be using the DBA tools here. So for job credentials, I'm using the Azure SQL because I need to create the credentials, and there is a command to create the credentials. But for login user combination, I will be using the DBA tools. So few words about that. There is a very universal command, invoke-dba query, which allows anyone to run a T-SQL against a server or group of servers, and that's from DBA tools. And my query will just create a login. There is a command in DBA tools, new -dba login or add new DBA login, something like that. But it was much simpler for me to just use the query. So I'm running this this T-SQL, and it's very similar to create the users. So that will be done in DBA tools. And here I'm going to create a refresh credential on a master database in both target servers, and this is the user in the in there. So yeah, that's what I'm going to create there. And this bit catches the databases from both target servers. And to do so, I'm going to grab the databases, get the -dba database from both instances, save them as a variable, and then loop through all the databases and create user and for job credentials, the one that is going to allow the agent to run a job. The extra permission is the DB owner because I want to do things, and I didn't want to limit myself or the agent to like some restricted permissions. I wanted to give them full power, but it's a good idea to think about this when you're creating the solution, to just not give too much power to your accounts, because it can cause problems in the future. If the job credential is too powerful, it can do damage if someone creates the job on the job server and, let's say, to drop tables. Yeah, it might be too powerful. Azure is really slow, at least this region. So let's see if it's still going. Usually it's done. Now it's 10 minutes. Well, I said 3:15, but wow, this one is just created. So unfortunately, we are a bit unlucky because this is taking longer than usual. I don't know why. It's Saturday, but hey, it is what it is. And in Azure, we are never sure when, how long it takes. So at least that's my experience. Sometimes it took less than the range from the top, but the maximum was 15 minutes. So we are probably need to prepare for next couple of minutes. Okay, so I will carry on with explaining the script. After I grant the permissions and the users, I'm going to add the target groups. And here we are going back to az.sql. We have the two commands, elastic job target group, which will create a group, and add elastic job target to the group. And again, I'm not passing the details of the group here in the regular parameters, just piping the group creation, which was the line above here, to the command. So it makes it a bit easier to write and less characters used in the script. And there will be 3 groups from this demo. The first one is for 2 instances, for 2 full servers. The second one is for single databases, each from one from each server. And the third one is all databases from one server, excluding a single database. So the difference between these 2 parts is, as you can see, I'm using the same command. Yay, we are back here, 11, almost 12 minutes. So I will go back to this one because we still need to create the database. So let's bear with me for a second, so we just don't wait longer than we need to. Okay, the target servers are created. So now let's go back to the firewall rules. We can create the firewall rules now. It shouldn't take too long. It's just switching the values. Yeah, it's here. And now the agent. So I'm going to create the agent, the job database, the agent, and the target databases in one go. So we don't have this break, because that will take, again, a few more minutes, maybe 5 or maybe 10. Let's see. So while it's running, let's go back to the groups. The first group is the whole server, so I need the refresh credential parameter to be passed, to be set, because the group is the whole server, and the agent needs to know if there are new databases or the databases were removed from the server. So that's why I'm using the refresh credential for this type of the target group. The second target group is just a single database from each server. So I don't need to provide the refresh credential name because I don't need the agent to know anything about other databases. I just need to know about this database. So I need to provide the database name, and the server name is here as well, but I don't need the refresh credential. That's what is that is the role of the refresh credential, to see all the databases. And in this example, I don't need that. It just points to a single database. So if I remove any other database or add new database, this doesn't affect this this target group, this job. The job will still run on these two databases. And the last group, it looks a little bit complicated, but I'm creating the target group. Now from the server 1, I'm getting all the databases, and in the loop, I'm going to add the databases to the group. So I'm adding the databases individually, not just as a server, but individually as database by database from the server 1. And then using it might be counterintuitive, but using the command add, I'm removing one of the targets. But it's not just removing it from the table. So it will be added to the list, but with the flag or with the property exclude. So as you can see, when I run the script, you will see the output. All databases at first will have the include property, and then one of them will have the exclude again. So it will be listed twice. Yeah, so that's the plan. The Azure doesn't like me today. That's taking too long. I wonder if I choose different environment, different region, it would be quicker. Come on, US. So that will create the target groups that will leave us only with the job, and my job that's going to run for the demo is going to have 3 steps. Each step will be executed on different target group. And to show you that, I'm going to create the job. Each of the steps is creating the table that's called step 1, step 2, step 3, depending on which step is that. And each query will be run against the target group corresponding to the numbers. So step 1 and query 1 will be executed on target group 1 and 2 and 3. And that means that the step 1 table should be created on all databases from both servers. Step 2, just on databases. There's 2 databases I pointed here. And step 3 should be created on all databases from server 1, but not on this one I just excluded. Hopefully that we have time. I have 10 minutes. Come on, Azure. Push it a little bit. And yeah, so once it's done, I'm going to execute the job, and we'll see it will create all the tables. So hopefully it will create the tables. Yeah, I don't know what to say. Why it's taking so long? It's very unusual for me, at least. So yeah, apologies for that. I had two demos for that, but I'm not sure if we can make it with this time schedule. I don't want to overrun because I think Damian is next in the queue, so I don't want to overrun, but we have to wait. I can only show you the backup job. Is it here? So the backup job that I created before, it failed, but it failed because one of the databases is the master, and I didn't create a credential, the job credential in the master database. So yes, it's finished now. Well, yeah, target grade, perfect. So let's see. Let's hope we can finish that. Okay, the databases are created, the target groups, the job credentials here. So we need to create the credentials. And we need to create the users and logins. That will take a while because it needs to connect to each database, but it shouldn't be too long. Again, this bit with creating the groups and the job shouldn't take long. The longest is to create the resources, or maybe because it's a Power Platform, global Power Platform bootcamp, that's why it's having some issues with performance today. Creating the target groups, creating the elastic job. As I mentioned before, we can see the include membership here. It's include because I'm including the whole server, the databases, the individual databases, and the last one is excluded because I specifically said exclude that database. Now I created the job with the 3 steps, and I'm going to start that job. While this job is running, I can see the executions. I can see it's executing on different databases, so it's in progress. And before it will run for some time, so I will quickly create the second job that is going to collect the data from target servers, and we will go back to this one because we need to see the tables. So let's create just a new credential, a new login, and the role, because I'm going to read the data from target servers. So it's the job collection credential. I'm going to create that, the users. That's quicker because I don't have to create actual databases. And with DBA tools, I can create tables as well. So there is a command new -dba db table, and here's my definition. And on each server, I'm going to run a query. What is the server name and what is the timestamp? But the central table requires this first column, internal execution ID. And that's a unique ID that will be on the job server. So I'm going to create that table now. And as you can see with DB tools, we can create objects in Azure as well, not only on premises. And I'm going to create the job that just runs a select. So it doesn't do any changes. It just reads, the get date, which is the function to return the timestamp and the server name. So I'm adding this. I created the job, and I'm going to start this job now. Okay, this job is running. Let's go back to the other job. This should be done now. It succeeded. Yeah, perfect. So now I'm going to see the tables on those servers. I'm not using Management Studio. I don't want to go to Management Studio but I'm going, because there are 2 servers and 5 databases. I don't want to connect to each just to and refresh to show you the tables there, the tables there. So with the DBA tools, I can get DB tables, the DB table, and get the list of the tables from both servers. It will run a little bit, and I will sort that by table name, because that's how we created the tables. So a few more seconds. And yes, it's done. So we can see that the table number 1 from step number 1 has been created on all databases, because in the target group 1, I added both instances, both of them. So the table 1 has been created on both servers. The target group number 2 had just 2 databases, database 1 and database 1.1 and database 2.2, and the table was created there. And the target number 3 had all databases from instance 1, but I excluded the DB11. So the table from that step is created just on these 3 tables, which worked. Okay, that's cool. And now let's see the other job. So this job should be done now as well. Is it done? Succeeded. Excellent. So I'm going to run the query. Just select star from collection central output, because that's how I created the table. And it shows me that it's not very useful result and not very useful query, but it shows me details of each server, because I executed that query against every database. So 4 of them were on server 1, 1 was on server 2, and the timestamp is here. It would be probably useful if I add the database name here. So I need to change that. But we also have the internal execution ID as an extra column, and that is the data collected on the job server. So I don't have to go to the target servers anymore. And the only difference comparing to the previous demo, here I will just split that. I should use the splat method here as well, but I'm just going to show you that I'm adding the step as in the previous demo: name, target, credential name, command text, and here's the difference: output schema name, which is collection. In my case, I just named that. It can be anything. Output table name, central output. Again, this is my invention. Output credential name, the job collection. So that is this extra credential that I just created for this purpose. And the output database resource ID, which is telling which the database is collecting the output. So that concludes the demo. In summary, the Elastic jobs in Azure SQL Database are fancy SQL agent jobs with more functions than just SQL agent jobs on premises. You can create them in Portal, but you need to add some other task, some other tool like PowerShell or Management Studio to run some T-SQL commands, because it's not possible to create the whole solution in Portal. And you can also create them in PowerShell. Like in my example, I used AZ.SQL and DBA tools to run the whole solution within one file. And if I run this file, select the whole script or just run the script, it will create everything in 10-20 minutes from the scratch to the end. And that's brilliant. So I think I made it. I'm Michal Bronowski, and if you have any questions after that, please reach out to me at michalbronowski@gmail.com, and I'm happy to be here. Thank you for having me today at your event, and hopefully the rest of the day goes smoothly as well. Sorry for overrunning a little bit, Damian, and everyone.